She must have put it in her eye. And that's
Good morning.
How you doing?
My name is Berkeley Bennett, and I'm the commander of American Legion Post 35 of the Hamptons. And on behalf of Post 35, I'd like to thank each of you for joining us as a community to honor our nation's fallen heroes. The one question I have to ask is everybody back from the parade? At this time, I'd like to introduce Reverend Carolyn Keelig of the United Church of Christ in Northampton to offer an invocation. Please bow your heads.
Let us be in the spirit of prayer. O God of this century and of centuries past, you have been present to those of all generations. Be close to us now who are gathered here, keeping alive the memories of those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. We honor their memories and remember them, their families and friends in prayer. God of the brave and of the brokenhearted, God of those who went off to fight for their country and never returned, and God of those who are left behind with aching hearts. Comfort those who still feel the pain of loss. Look upon your bereaved servants with your mercy. As this day brings them memories of those they have lost a while, may it also bring your consolation and the assurance that their loved ones are alive now and forever in your living presence. Our prayers also extend, great Comforter, to the many returning from combat with wounded bodies or spirits, that the care and compassion they receive from us be equal to your loving care, as we recognize we owe them more than our thoughts and prayers. We pray that your spirit of strength and courage be with those who still wait and pray day by anxious day for that precious moment of reunion with a distant family member, friend, or loved one. Remember the families of our troops, and may your unique blessings fill their homes, and may your peace and provision fill their lives. Loving God, as we remember with compassion your children who have lost their lives to war, help us to honor their memory. Let us ever be conscious of their sacrifice for us. Please hold our servicemen and women in your strong arms. Cover them with your sheltering grace and presence as they stand in the gap for our protection. May the members of our armed forces be filled with courage to face each day, and may they trust in the Lord's almighty power to accomplish each task. Let our military brothers and sisters feel our love and support. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Keelig. At this time, I'm going to introduce the Winnicott High School Band under the direction of Kenneth Martin, who will lead us in the national anthem. If I could ask you to remove your covers and place your hand over your hearts. Detail, attend, hut, present, arms. Order! Arms! At this time, I'd like to acknowledge our veterans. Would all of our Army veterans please raise your hands? Navy veterans. Marine Corps.
Hoorah!
Air Force. Coast Guard. Wartime Merchant Mariners. And our first responders, our police and firefighters. Would all those who served in the Korean War please raise your hand? Vietnam. Conflicts between 1975 and 1991. Desert Storm. Operations Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom. And last but not least, the members of our greatest generation, our World War II veterans. Civilizations have been honoring their fallen warriors since the dawn of time, and the United States is no different. Memorial Day, a day which had its origins in remembering the soldiers who died in the Civil War, is now a day to honor all of our service members who have died for our freedom. Memorial Day always seems to be a day to remember anniversaries. It's a way for us to mark time and pause to remember the sacrifices of those who came before us. This year marks the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. It was called a war to end all wars, a war to make the world safe for democracy. It was a war that began with the assassination of the Austro-Hungarian Archduke and snowballed into the largest worldwide conflict known to man at the time. It was a war that President Woodrow Wilson thought we should have no part of. Wilson believed in neutrality and saw America's role as a peace broker, and for the most part, the American public agreed with him. Then in April 1917 came the German resumption of unrestricted submarine warfare against U.S. ships and the Zimmermann telegram. Unable to stay on the sidelines any longer, the United States declared war on Germany. It took months to mobilize our military, and American troops did not see much action until 1918. And when they finally saw action, they were exposed to the most brutal horrors of a fully industrialized war. Machine guns, flamethrowers, airplanes, tanks, poison gas, just to name a few. But the Americans proved themselves against the most powerful army in the world, the Germans. They fought bravely at Belleau Wood, a battle which is forever etched into Marine Corps history. The Second Battle of the Marne, where even today the Army's 3rd Infantry Division is known as the Rock of the Marne. And the Meuse-Argonne Offensive, which is considered to be the second bloodiest battle in U.S. military history, with over 26,000 American soldiers killed. Only the invasion of Normandy during World War II ranks higher. Altogether, over 116,000 American men and women died in World War I. We gather today to pay tribute to their sacrifice. It is up to us, the present generation, to use Memorial Day to reflect on the sacrifice of those who died for our freedom over 100 years ago. It is also the responsibility of the present generation to teach our children to remember those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. We should teach them that Gettysburg is just not the name of a small town in Pennsylvania, but hallowed ground, where over 3,000 men died, not only to maintain the Union, but also break the clutches of slavery upon our nation. They should learn the bravery of our forefathers who fought in the Marines at the Battle of Belleau Wood, and the sacrifices of those doughboys who died at the Second Battle of the Marne. They should be told about D-Day in World War II, where the U.S. and our allies invaded Nazi-occupied France to save the world from tyranny. They should learn the lesson of Korea, of how their great-grandfathers fought bravely in often brutal conditions and prevented an ally from being overrun by a ruthless communist regime. They should be taught the bravery of our military service members who fought and died 50 years ago in a country called Vietnam, and teach them never to repeat the often shameless way those veterans were welcomed home. Our children should be taught that one day they will be the ones called upon to remember the extraordinary accomplishments of our military in Desert Storm and retell the story of how America was knocked down on 9/11, but how our country recovered stronger than ever. Our young people should learn that Antietam, Chateau Thierry, Guadalcanal, Midway, Bastogne, Iwo Jima, Chosin Reservoir, Khe Sanh, Beirut, Fallujah are just not the names of places. They are places of honor, where our forefathers not only fought and died to advance the cause of freedom and justice, but for an ideal called America. Our young people today will be the ones to teach future generations of the ultimate sacrifice made by those who came before us to keep our country strong and free. Our children must be taught to respect and honor the flag of the United States of America, because whether the flag had 34 stars in 1863, or 48 in 1944, or 50 as it was recovered from the rubble of the World Trade Center, this is the flag. This is a symbol under which men and women died for our country. It not only represents their sacrifice, but all we stand for as a nation. It is our earnest hope that 100 years from now, when we are all gone from this earth, that the children of our young people here today will be honoring the military men and women who came before them. Those, as Abraham Lincoln said, that gave the last full measure of devotion. Georgie Carter Krell, whose son, Marine Private First Class Bruce Carter, was killed in Vietnam and was a recipient of the Medal of Honor posthumously, she remarked, "Dying for freedom isn't the worst thing that can happen. Being forgotten is." Our guest speaker today is an example of who I would call twice a citizen. Corporal Jed Carpentier, United States Marine Corps, is a 1998 graduate of Raymond High School. After graduation, he enlisted in the Marine Corps, completing boot camp at Parris Island, South Carolina. He attended the School of Infantry at Camp Geiger, North Carolina, after which he received orders to the Expeditionary Warfare Training Group Atlantic, Fort Story, Virginia. There he attended basic amphibious reconnaissance training. This grueling 3-month course consisted of radio communication, land navigation, supporting arms, patrolling and reconnaissance, scout swimmer techniques, and boat operation, all under strenuous physical and sleep-deprived conditions. Upon graduation, Jed received orders to the 5th 4th Reconnaissance Battalion, Okinawa, Japan. He deployed with the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit aboard USS Belleau Wood and USS Boxer. Jed has also completed U.S. Army Airborne School at Fort Benning, Georgia, Marine Corps MC-5 Parachute High Altitude High Opening Transition Course, the Australian Army Parachute Training School at Nowra, New South Wales, The Marine Corps Combat Diver Course at Naval Diving and Salvage Training Center, Panama City, Florida. His awards include Meritorious Unit Commendation, Good Conduct Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Sea Service Ribbon 3rd Award, and Rifle and Pistol Expert. He was selected as his unit's Marine of the Quarter, 2nd quarter, 2001. If that were not enough, Jed is a proud member of the Hampton Fire Department since 2007. He's an advanced EMT and the current union president of Professional Firefighters of Hampton. Jed resides in Exeter with his wife and daughter, and they are currently expecting in November. It's not a puppy. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor to introduce to you Corporal Jed Carpentier, United States Marine Corps.
Good morning. Can everyone hear okay? Thank you, Commander, for offering me the amazing opportunity to share my thoughts with not only you, with not only yourself, but the rest of American Legion Post 35, all of the veterans gathered here today, the distinguished guests, and especially the Gold Star families in the crowd. It's an honor to be surrounded by a proud group of patriots here today. True patriots who understand the significance of Memorial Day and make it a point to gather to celebrate the courageous lives of our fallen brothers and sisters in arms, the brave men and women who gave their lives to ensure that our freedoms are preserved and we have the ability to assemble here today. And thank you to each of you for taking the time to acknowledge these brave men and women who made that ultimate sacrifice. It was a humbling experience being asked to speak here today, and after confirming with the commander he had the right person, I wrestled with the magnitude of this day. After hours of reflection, I realized I do not possess the ability to put in the words the amount of respect and gratitude that I have for those who made the ultimate sacrifice to preserve our freedoms. And I know each of you know exactly what I mean. As we have heard, 2018 marks 100 years since the end of World War I. An estimated 65 to 70 million military personnel mobilized, and that's hard for us to imagine. Of them, roughly 5 million U.S. troops engaged. Approximately 18.3 million killed in action, missing in action, or wounded in action. Of them, roughly 116,000 American casualties. Referred to as the Great War, World War I, the War of Nations, and the war to end all wars, we now know that simply was not the case. While World War I officially ended on November 11, 1918, many believe World War I never really ended, and World War II was an extension of it. World War II saw even more troops mobilized on both sides. This increased demand called for a percentage of Americans to be drafted. Some who were drafted were men of color, being asked to defend freedoms that only existed to them on paper. Leading drafted Army veteran and famed Major League Baseball player Jackie Robinson to say, "I believe in the goodness of a free society, and I believe that the society can remain good only as long as we are willing to fight for it and fight against whatever imperfections may exist." I agree with Jackie. As Americans, we have made strides to minimize our imperfections, and there is more work to be done. That work starts with us as individuals, honestly reflecting on the world around us and taking action to correct those imperfections. Let us reflect on the words of General James Mattis, who reminded us once when he stated, "We are the good guys, and we are not the perfect guys." It doesn't hurt for us to strive for perfection, though. We owe a debt of gratitude to all the men and women who defended our freedoms against all enemies in every conflict since the inception of our great nation through today. Each generation, while unique in their own way, has answered the call. Every service member, by raising their hand, signed a blank check payable up to their life. The note at the bottom of the check read, "Preserving the American dream of freedom." This generation has answered the call of a 16-and-a-half-year war on terror. We should be proud of the fact that of our roughly 2 million military personnel in uniform today, They're all there voluntarily. While defending our freedom, they have provided freedoms for people in distant lands as well. Freedoms like little girls having the right to go to school and not to be an oppressed segment of society. This generation, like each of those before it, can be proud of carrying the torch of freedom. While we pray the next generation will not have to carry that burden, we will be prepared if they do. Some of you may wonder what a typical Marine is. I'll attempt to describe that for you. It didn't matter what social, economical, religious, or ideological background you came from. It was our diversity that made us special and brought us strength. You were a part of something much greater than your individual wants and needs. You were there to serve God as you chose to see him, country and corps. Discipline, spirit, chain of command, instant willingness to quickly obey all orders, constantly preparing to maintain the highest level of readiness, demanding 100% effort at all times. Entirely satisfied if we gave 100%, and entirely dissatisfied if we gave 99%. It is nothing short of breathtaking to witness the actions free men and women will take to preserve that freedom. The spirit of the American military was captured by Private Martin A. Treptow, a young American private killed in France in World War I. Private Treptow was killed while serving as a runner or a courier for Company M in the Battle of Ourcq River on July 29, 1918. A diary was found on him which had inscribed the following pledge: "As Americans, we must win this war. Therefore, I will work, I will save, I will sacrifice, I will endure, I will fight cheerfully to do my utmost, as if the issue of the whole struggle depended on me alone." Gold Star families, whom have undoubtedly given us their most prized possession, they did so in the name of freedom and preserving traditional American values. It is our duty to honor them by living those American values. May none of us lose sight of the beautiful freedom we are lucky enough to be born into. Every day, but especially today, Memorial Day, remember that freedom is not free and it comes at a cost. Let us spend less time focusing on the minute details that make us individuals and divide us, and more time focusing on traditional American values that unite us. Find the goodness in Americans, even when we disagree. We have an obligation to leave the same undiminished freedoms that we enjoy here today to the next generation, and not to forget the men and women who came before us. During World War II, it was said that First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt carried a prayer card with her that read, "Dear Lord, lest I continue my complacent ways, help me to remember somewhere out there a man died for me today. As long as there must be war, then I must ask and answer, am I worth dying for?" Ask yourself that same thing tonight as you go to bed, and may we all seek self-improvement in the name of those who no longer have that opportunity. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to introduce State Representative Henry Marsh.
Just looking out here, I've been to over 60 of these in Northampton. Grew up here. And I want to thank everyone for coming. This is the largest group I've ever seen. I want to thank you for coming. Before I start here, I just want you to know what's happening with the veterans. I happen to be the chairman of Winnacunnet School Board, and we have awarded diplomas to anyone that dropped out of Winnacunnet and served during a time of war. We've given out several. If anyone knows anyone else that has dropped out of Winnicott and served during a time of war, please get a hold of me. I'm just going to, Mrs. Brown over here, her husband was in World War II, and a great ceremony. The other thing that's happening with veterans in the legislature, we're looking that veterans can go to any hospital in the state for service. There are some other things that veterans many here are classmates and contemporaries of mine, and I want to applaud you because you've given up not just time but the dignity of the United States, and I want to thank you for that. I'm going to read this. This was in the legislature 2 years ago. I read it last year. It was raining. We didn't have as many people. So bear with me for a moment. Some people call me Old Glory. Others call me the Star Spangled Banner. But whatever they call me, I'm your flag, the flag of the United States of America. Something has been bothering me. So I thought I'd talk it over with you because it's about you and me. I remember some time ago when people lined both sides of the street to watch the parade, and naturally I was leading every parade. Proudly waving in the breeze. When your daddy saw me coming, he immediately removed his hat and placed it against his left shoulder with his hand directly over his heart. Remember. And you remember, you standing there straight as a soldier. You didn't have a hat, but you had your right salute. Remember your little sister, not to be outdone. She was saluting, and same as you, with her hand over her heart, remembering. But what happened? I'm still the old flag. Oh, I've had a few more stars since you were a boy, but a lot more blood has been shed since those parades of long ago. But now, I don't feel as proud as I used to when I come down the street and you just stand there with your hands in your pockets. Or there might be a small glance, and then you just look away. Then I see the children running around and shouting. They don't seem to know who I am. I saw one man take his hat off and then look around and didn't see anyone else with his off. So he quickly put it back on. Is it a sin to be patriotic anymore? Have you forgotten what I stand for and where I have been? Anzio, Guadalcanal, Korea, Vietnam. Take a look at the memorial honor rolls, sometimes of those who never came back. Remember to be free. One nation under God. When you salute me, you're saluting them. Well, it won't be long that I'll be coming down your street again. So when you see me, stand straight, place your hand over your heart, and I'll salute you by waving back. Thank you. I'm sorry, last year I didn't have any copies. I was asked many times to get copies. If anyone would like one, I have quite a few. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Northampton School Chorus, who will sing God Bless America under the direction of Mary Oliver. Good job, guys. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask Reverend Carolyn Keilig to offer a benediction.
And now may the remembrance of those who sacrificed their lives for our life as a nation impel us to seek justice, to foster freedom, and to pursue the ways of peace. May our nation be a source of blessing to all its people and to the rest of humankind. And may the truth that makes us free, the hope that never dies, and the love that casts out fear lead us forward together till the day spring breaks and the shadows flee away. Amen.
Gunnery Sergeant Mike McDonald, United States Marine Corps, Vietnam, will now place a wreath. Detail, attend, hut. Major Fred Rice, United States Army Special Forces, Vietnam, will now read a list of conflicts involving the United States, and Petty Officer Joe Cutt, United States Navy, Vietnam, will toll bell in their honor.
The American Revolution, the War of 1812, the Civil War, the Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, America's conflicts from 1975 to 1991, Operation Desert Storm, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom,
Detail, present, arms. Firing party, salute the fallen.
Prepare to fire. Ready, fire. 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 Four arms. Present arms.
Order, arms. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming out this morning and honoring those who died fighting for our country. I have to echo Henry's comments that this is the largest crowd we've ever seen in Northampton. I can't tell you how much it heartens us to see this level of support for those of us who came before us. And I also want to let you know that we've got a ceremony on Veterans Day too, and we'd love to see the same sort of turnout. Before I forget, I have to acknowledge the GOAT. It would not be a ceremony in Northampton without the GOAT. We have to see him next year, or her. Next year I'll learn the GOAT's name.
Next year
I want to thank John Savastano and his team for setting this all up for us. I want to thank Jed Carpentier, Reverend Kylig, State Representative Henry Marsh, Ken Martin and the Winnicott High School Band, Lieutenant Colonel Antonio and Master Sergeant Rial and the Winnicott High School Marine Corps Junior ROTC Color Guard, Mary Oliver and her students, along with Dan Singer and the Northampton School Band, Bugler Mark Weatherby, Gunnery Sergeant Mike McDonald, Major Fred Rice, Petty Officer Joe Cutt. Thanks to all our scouts. Thanks to the Post 35 Firing Party and Color Guard. Thank you to our state reps, Northampton Selectmen and Town Manager and other dignitaries. Thanks to the Northampton Police Department and Fire Department for helping us out this morning. And a special thank you to all our vets. This concludes our ceremony this morning. There will be a parade at Hampton at 11:30, followed by our High Street Cemetery service. I got 25 minutes. God bless and keep our fallen heroes. God bless our servicemen and women of the armed forces. And God bless the United States of America. Thank you.